Lisa Parker was a careful driver. She always checked her mirrors, used her turn signals, and never sped. But that night, something went wrong. She had just left her friend Sarah's house after a late-night study session. The rain was pouring down, making the road slick and treacherous. Lisa gripped the steering wheel tightly, her eyes straining to see through the blurry windshield. As she approached the intersection, a sudden flash of headlights blinded her. A car sped through a red light, coming straight for her. Lisa slammed on the brakes, but it was too late. The impact was deafening. Her car spun out of control, metal crunching and glass shattering as it collided with the other vehicle. Everything happened in a blur. Lisa felt a sharp pain in her chest, then darkness consumed her. When Lisa opened her eyes, she wasn't in her car anymore. She was floating above it, watching the scene unfold from a strange, detached perspective. Below her, she saw the twisted wreckage of her car, steam rising from the crumpled hood. Paramedics were already on the scene, rushing to pull her from the vehicle. What's happening, Lisa thought, confused. She tried to move but found herself floating in the air, unable to interact with the world below. Panic surged through her. Was she dead? She looked down at her body, or rather, where her body should have been. There was nothing, no arms, no legs, just a vague sensation of existing. Lisa watched as the paramedics carefully lifted her limp form onto a stretcher. Her face was pale, blood trickling from a cut on her forehead. They were talking urgently, their voices muffled and distant, as if they were underwater. One of them placed an oxygen mask over her face, while another pressed down on her chest, trying to restart her heart. No, Lisa thought frantically. This can't be happening. I can't be dead. But she wasn't dead, not yet. She could feel a strange pull, a connection between her floating consciousness and the body lying on the stretcher. It was as if she was tethered to herself by an invisible thread, one that was growing weaker with each passing moment. The next thing Lisa knew, she was in a hospital. The bright lights of the emergency room flickered around her as doctors and nurses worked frantically to save her life. She could hear the beeping of machines, the hiss of ventilators, and the rapid-fire instructions being given by the surgeons. She watched in horror as they wheeled her broken body into the operating room. Blood stained the sheets beneath her, and her skin had taken on a ghastly, pale hue. The doctors cut away her clothing, revealing the extent of her injuries: a deep gash on her abdomen, bruises spreading across her ribs, and a nasty wound on her head. Lisa floated above the scene, feeling helpless and terrified. She watched as the surgeons fought to stabilize her. One doctor was stitching up the wound on her abdomen, while another monitored her vitals. The machine beeps erratically, a testament to the battle her body was waging. I have to go back, Lisa thought desperately. I can't leave. I have to live. But no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't return to her body. It was like trying to swim against a powerful current. The more she struggled, the more distant her body seemed to become. She could feel the thread connecting her to her physical form growing thinner, fraying at the edges. As she hovered in the operating room, she noticed something strange. Shadows danced around the edges of the room, dark and indistinct. They flickered in the corners of her vision, slipping through the walls like smoke. Lisa felt a chill run through her, an instinctual fear that she couldn't explain. What are those, she wondered, trying to get a better look. But whenever she focused on one of the shadows, it would disappear, only to reappear somewhere else. The doctors continued their work, oblivious to the shadows creeping closer. Lisa's heart raced, or at least it would have if she still had a heart. She could sense something was wrong, something beyond just her injury. The shadows were growing bolder, inching closer to her body, as if they were drawn to her weakening life force. The surgeons were working faster now, their faces tense with concentration. Lisa could see the sweat beading on their foreheads, the strain in their eyes as they fought to save her. The lead surgeon called out for more blood, his voice urgent. Lisa could feel herself slipping further away. The thread that connected her to her body was almost gone, a thin strand barely holding on. The shadows were closer now, swirling around her. In a menacing dance, they seemed almost alive, pulsing with a dark energy that filled her with dread. "No," Lisa screamed in her mind. "I won't let you take me." But the shadows only grew stronger, feeding off her fear. They wrapped around her like tendrils of smoke, cold and suffocating. Lisa felt a crushing weight on her chest, as if something was trying to pull her away to drag her into the darkness. Below, the doctors worked feverishly. Lisa watched as her heart monitor flatlined, a long, piercing beep filling the room. The lead surgeon swore, grabbing the defibrillator paddles. "Clear," he shouted, pressing them to her chest. A jolt of electricity surged through her body, and Lisa felt the thread snap. The world around her shifted, the bright lights of the hospital blurring into darkness. The shadows closed in, wrapping her in their cold embrace. "No," Lisa cried out, her voice echoing in the void. "I won't go. I have to live." And then something changed. A light appeared in the distance, faint but warm. It cut through the darkness like a beacon, driving the shadows back. Lisa felt the pull again, but this time it was different. It was gentle, guiding her toward the light. She followed it, the darkness retreating as she moved closer. The shadows hissed in anger, but they couldn't touch her now. The light grew brighter, and Lisa felt warmth spread through her, a sense of peace that she hadn't felt since the accident. The light surrounded her, and she felt the pull become stronger, almost like a hand reaching out to her. Without hesitation, she reached back, letting the light guide her. With a sudden jolt, Lisa was back in the hospital room. She gasped for air, her chest heaving as her lungs filled with oxygen. The heart monitor beeped steadily again, the flat line replaced by the steady rhythm of her heartbeat. The doctors and nurses cheered, their relief palpable. "We got her back," the lead surgeon exclaimed, his voice filled with exhaustion and triumph. Lisa blinked, disoriented. She was back in her body, feeling the cold of the operating table beneath her, the sting of pain from her injuries. But she was alive. She had fought her way back from the brink of death. The shadows were gone, banished by the light that had saved her. Lisa felt tears well up in her eyes, a mixture of relief, gratitude, and fear. She had been so close to losing everything, to being swallowed by the darkness. As the doctors continued their work, Lisa closed her eyes, letting the exhaustion wash over her. She knew she had been given a second chance and she wasn't going to waste it. The memories of the accident, the surgery, and the out-of-body experience would stay with her forever, a reminder of how fragile life could be. But for now, she was alive, and that was all that mattered. Weeks later, Lisa sat in her bed, recovering from her injuries. The physical wounds were healing, but the memories of that night haunted her. She could still see the shadows in the corners of her vision, still feel the cold touch of the darkness that had tried to take her. But she also remembered the light, the warmth that had pulled her back. It was a reminder that even in the darkest moments there was hope, a way back to the world of the living. Lisa knew she would never be the same after what had happened. The experience had changed her, opened her eyes to the fragility of life and the thin line between this world and the next. But it had also made her stronger, more determined to live her life to the fullest. She had been given a second chance, and she was going to make every moment count.